Welcome to Your Personal Power Pod, a podcast about aligning yourself with the life you want. And here are your hosts, Sandy Abel and Shannon Young.
Shannon, how are you today?
Sandy, I am well. How are you?
I am great. I am really interested in this topic we're talking about today because it used to be me.
Tell me about that. We're talking about being shy today. Are you shy? And if so, how is that affecting your life?
And when you're shy, it means you're uncomfortable or self-conscious around people and you don't talk, and it can affect a whole lot of things. And back in the day, for a long, long time in my life, I was really shy. I was just afraid of people. I think probably because, as I've mentioned before, I used to be bullied and all that. Mm-hmm. And so I learned just to keep my mouth shut and stay away from people. And it got to the point where it was not really healthy. I just stayed away from everybody. And then I was in a group the other day of people, and one of the men spoke up and said, "I'm really proud of myself for even talking in this group, because up until a couple of years ago, I was really, really shy. Now I can actually talk." We all cheered and applauded him and everything because that's so cool. It made me think about how uncomfortable and difficult it is to be shy. So we're going to talk about that today. When you're shy, you just are afraid of being yourself around strangers, and it's just safer to be yourself around you and not have other people you're afraid might criticize or make fun of or whatever you. And you also have physical symptoms. Often you feel nervous or sweaty, or your heart might beat too fast, or you get an upset stomach.
Yes, you're worried about how other people are going to perceive you because you can't control other people's narrative about you. And if you're not feeling super comfortable in your own skin, you may be placing a whole lot of emphasis on other people's validating who you are. So it's easier just to hide yourself.
Exactly. And because of that, you might skip social events, professional gatherings. Mm-hmm. It can affect your work, actually. If you can't deal with people, you will avoid people and maybe not be able to advance in your work or even do what your job is.
Mm-hmm. And you can also wind up comparing yourself to people, images in the media, pitting yourself against those who you kind of idolize and feeling like so much less than.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you are shy, your body language changes. You don't stand tall and look people in the eye, and you might frown or look worried or look away and be guarded and defensive, cross your arms, and all those body language things that tell people that they need to stay away.
Mm-hmm. You kind of fold into yourself. I've seen quite a few people who are standing waiting for something like in line or for movie tickets or something like that. And they're just all hunched over and folded into themselves.
Yeah.
And everything about them says, "I don't want to engage with you."
Yeah. You know, the opposite is your dad, who will talk to anybody who's in line. And he stands tall and makes eye contact and says, "Hi, are you looking forward to this movie? Isn't it fun? I heard great reviews." Unfortunately, I don't think he's ever had a shy minute in his life. It's just so cool.
So where does shyness come from?
Usually from social experiences. When you're young, you interact with your parents. If they are not supportive or if they are scary, there are some scary, abusive parents. They might be authoritarian or overprotective. Or even if your parents are shy, you might learn from them.
Sometimes parents don't let their kids experience things, so they don't develop the self-confidence that comes with doing and realizing you can do.
Or abuse. You know, if you're abused, you learn to just hide, stay out of everybody's way. Or like I mentioned, if you're bullied or laughed at by others, I wasn't by my family at all. Just when I got to school, I was made fun of. So I became real self-conscious and self-occupied and just was afraid of being judged or mocked.
I was really shy in high school.
Really? I didn't know that.
I distinctly remember being afraid to do simple things like call the doctor's office.
Yeah, I remember that.
I didn't feel like I knew the right way to interact with people, so it was just easier not to. I mean, I came from a great family. I didn't have a horrible time in school. I think it just came with being a teenager and feeling awkward and not feeling at home in my body and just not feeling like I knew the right thing to say. It really was debilitating.
I do remember that you didn't want to make phone calls, but you did get past that. I mean, you learned how to interact and how to do that, and now you're just awesome.
Well, the answer for me was getting a job in television.
Which really is interesting if you were shy. I mean, it's not, I hate being out there with people, so I think I'm going to go find a job where they look at me every night. That's like, really?
I can talk to a camera. I can talk to equipment. That's not a problem at all. But eventually that turned into being a reporter. And then you have to go talk to people. And I think maybe what was easy for me there was that the boundaries are different when it comes to acting in a journalism capacity. You can ask things that you can't ask in real life when you're just having conversations with people. It was easier to allow myself to do it because there was more flexibility. There was more freedom there.
Well, and when you're interviewing somebody, you're focused on the person, not on yourself.
True, but you're not always asking things they want to talk about, nor are you talking to them in ideal situations. In a lot of those scenarios, normal conversation parameters get dispensed with really quickly.
Interesting. You overcame it very well.
I can talk to anybody now.
I know. Isn't that great? Makes life easier.
So I didn't know, but there are different kinds of shyness.
Yeah, it can vary in strength. Like you were shy in certain circumstances. You were shy on the phone, that kind of thing. But out in the world, you were fine. It can just be mild and easily overcome. But some people feel extreme fear in social situations, and that can be debilitating, and they just sort of hide in their homes. And then there's all kinds of levels between the really mild and the really extreme. It's just who you are and where you are. The worst problem is when you do complete withdrawal from social activities because you're anxious and depressed. And interesting enough, in the United States, we regard shyness as negative. But in other cultures, like the Asian cultures, they tend to regard being shy as more positive.
They equate it with cultural values like modesty.
Exactly. There are so many different things that affect shyness.
And there are so many different things that shyness affects.
Yes. If you're mildly shy, you can work with and eventually overcome it. But if you're extremely shy, it can really stunt your life. It can stop you from meeting new people or taking advantage of opportunities or moving ahead in your work. Then you end up being lonely and sitting at home all the time, and then you can get depressed. It can stop you from trying new things, so you don't have any personal growth.
Which then also affects your relationships, how many people you have in your life, how you function in those relationships, and how those relationships evolve.
Yeah. And it reduces your ability to work and communicate with others. If you're just afraid to speak up, you'll end up being lonely and have no friends or positive people in your life. You
mentioned work. It can negatively affect the quality of your success at work, which can keep you from rising in whatever industry you're in, which then affects your earning potential. So all of these things together, relationships, work life, and your ability to experience new things totally affect the overall quality of your life.
Being shy is a big deal for a lot of people.
It's kind of being scared of life. And if you let your fear direct your actions, then your world gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
And at some point, you have to do what I did or what the guy in my group did or what you did, is just say, whoa, this is getting in the way of my functioning. I need to do something about it. And there are a lot of different things you can do to overcome your shyness.
And start with doing what you love to do and appreciating what makes you special. You got to look at yourself and identify your strengths.
Exactly. And you have to be honest with yourself about that. Am I a good person? Is there a reason for me to hide? If you were bullied, was that your problem? Or maybe just the bully's problem? It's always the bully's problem. Look at your childhood and see if you can determine where your shyness came from, if you still need it to protect you from something.
And work on those things that develop your self-confidence and your self-esteem. This is about starting at the root of the problem, which is your relationship with you. So if you get better in your relationship with you, then it will make everything else in your life easier.
Always. As we have often said, when you are good with you, you can deal with and do anything. when you don't have positive self-esteem or claim your personal power, everything is more difficult.
And realize not everybody's looking at you.
Wow, that's a big one.
Well, it's true. We tend to think that we're highly visible and we're thinking about what we're doing all the time, but nobody else is really. It helps for me to remember if I wear something to work 2 days in 1 week and I feel weird about it. And then I think, did I notice what anybody else was wearing yesterday? Probably not.
Good example. Unfortunately, at least in American society, people don't really see each other often.
Yeah.
And they don't pay attention to each other very well. I've noticed even people who are my friends, they're so into who they are and what they're doing. And if I ask them about it, they will spend an hour talking about it and they'll slow down and then I'll ask another question and they'll just take off again. And then when I finally stop asking questions, they say, oh, wow, look at the time. I got to go. And they know absolutely nothing about what's going on with me. When you're shy, you think everybody's focused on you and really nobody is focused on you. So it's good to focus on yourself.
It's true that you protect yourself in a certain way by not interacting with people.
Yes.
But you also protect yourself in a certain way if you interact with people and focus on them. It gives you a lot more control and a lot more power. If you want people to think you're fascinating, let them talk about themselves.
That is so true.
So if all you're doing is showing interest in other people, you're protecting yourself to a certain degree, and then you kind of get to gauge how interested are they. If they're reciprocating, then you can decide if you want to allow little pieces of yourself to show. If they're not reciprocating, don't give them that privilege.
Yes, don't make yourself vulnerable and share things when they go, oh, that's nice, and then launch into something else about themselves. Don't go there.
Showing interest in other people can be a beautiful wall to hide behind.
And it can also be a gift you give to people. You make them feel special, and you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win.
It's nice to know when you're venturing out into the world and saying, okay, I'm going to interact today, that you don't have to go out and put yourself on show. You don't.
Well, like when you were being a reporter, people thought they knew you because they saw you on TV, but they didn't know you.
No.
And you interacted with them about them. So you had a nice conversation about who they are and whatever the issue was or what they were doing that you were reporting on. Then you left and they thought, oh, what a nice reporter. I really like her. And they didn't know anything about you. So if you're shy, there's a key, folks. Focus on the other person because they're not going to focus on you.
It also is a really good way, and maybe the only way, to figure out who's genuinely interested in you.
Yes.
And then when you know that, then you can start to build trust with those people.
Yes.
Emotionally as well as physically.
Yeah.
You don't know who actually cares about you.
Exactly.
Part of learning to develop that trust is paying attention to what your body's doing. So take deep breaths, relax your shoulders, smile, allow yourself to just be in your body and experience it, and then be interested in how you physically feel when you're interacting with other people.
Stand tall. Don't cross your arms in front of you. All those body language things that put people off, make you feel defended, but put people off. Just be friendly, smile, and be yourself. You might be surprised as you build your self-esteem and your self-confidence to realize that you're not shy anymore, just like the man in my group or like me. Mm-hmm. Suddenly you realize, oh, I'm talking to these people and I really don't care what they think about me anymore because I'm good with me. Mm-hmm. And that makes all the difference.
It was helpful for me to realize when I think about the people I've met who have made an impression on me or who I find interesting or who I would really like to hang out with more, even though if I may never see them again. But there are people I remember who I was like enamored with.
Yeah.
And those people are uniquely, often quirkily themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not the regular, normal, do everything the way it's expected, bland, fade into the background people that make an impression.
Mm-hmm. No, just be yourself.
I want to note here that I've read some articles or some stories, and I know some people who have enlisted various kinds of games to help them break out of their shyness rut. I mean that literally and figuratively. There have been some articles that I've read about people who have turned the practice of speaking to strangers into a game.
For themselves.
For themselves.
Yeah, they don't tell anybody they're playing a game.
No, right. Or, I mean, maybe they've let their spouse know or whatever, but today I'm going to talk to 6 people, and I'm going to do that by finding something to compliment about them.
Yes.
And they turn it into a little challenge. And what's amazing to me is how quickly doing that will get them out of their shyness. Just a few days.
They learn it's safe to talk to people, especially complimenting or appreciating. You've just made somebody's day. Mm-hmm. You feel great about it, and you haven't really put yourself on the line at all. Great suggestion.
One guy, I think, wrote an article about getting over his fear of rejection, and he made it his mission to get rejected a certain number of times a week.
What did he do to get rejected?
Probably as simple as just asking people out. I mean, he wasn't being inappropriate, but he was just saying, I need to show myself that getting rejected isn't going to kill me. Because he was debilitated. He couldn't ask anybody out on a date, and he really wanted to find a partner. And he just was like, I gotta engage in some immersion therapy here. you know?
Good for him. Yeah, and it worked.
And it worked. And the other way that games help, I know several people who have found a community through video games.
Oh, that kind of thing, yes.
It makes it so they didn't have to leave home, but they had to interact with people they would play online. And now they have communities of people who make them feel at home and who have made it possible for them to venture out of their house more and be social that way because they know that they still have this community of people, quote unquote, at home.
Yeah. And that's also physical games, like pickleball is really big these days.
Yeah, true.
And you don't have to talk a lot when you play pickleball.
Right.
If you find a group, and there's groups for all ages, apparently, find something like that, a game that you can interact with people and focus on the game. Right. And you'll get past yourself and have fun in the process and meet people that are interested in the same kind of thing you are.
Yes, if you can find an activity that allows you and whoever the other person or people are to focus on that together instead of focusing on each other, it takes that pressure off.
Yeah. So the bottom line is that when you're shy, it means you're self-conscious and uncomfortable around people. So you avoid social interactions. And if your shyness is extreme, it can negatively affect your life in many ways, from interfering with your being effective at work to making it so you're lonely because you don't allow yourself to meet new people and form relationships. There are many reasons why you might be shy. And the important thing is to understand what they are so you can address them. And there are several things you can do to overcome your shyness, even though it might be uncomfortable at first. But once you've claimed your personal power and done it, you'll find that you're living a healthier, happier life.
You've definitely done that. I'm very proud of how far you have come, because even once you were professional and you were running a successful business, the thought of doing this podcast was really scary because you knew you were going to have to put yourself out there in a way you hadn't before. And look at how natural you are now.
Thank you, Shan. Well, you too. Yeah, I figured I'm just me, and people who like that can listen, and hopefully they will find some benefit from what we share. And people who don't like it don't have to listen. There are millions of other podcasts. So I have learned over the years that I just need to be me. I'm a basically good, loving, caring person, and that's fine. Some people will like that. Some people won't. That's fine too. That's claiming your personal power.
You're awesome.
Oh, thank you. Well, so are you. You do the same thing. And I hope that all our listeners will do the same thing. If you are shy, take a deep breath, stand tall, put your shoulders back, and put yourself out there in whatever way works for you so that you can start connecting in a positive, fun way.
We do love it when you reach out to us. So if you have stories or questions, please send them to us. If you have ideas for future podcasts, please send them to us. If you'd like to review our podcast, we love that. And maybe you don't want to do that publicly. If you just want to share it with us directly, that's fine too. And you can do all of those things by visiting yourpersonalpowerpod.com, clicking contact and dropping us an email. You can also visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel and share it with your friends and family so they can join in the fun and the learning. And if you want to learn about coaching and how it can change your life, get in touch with Sandy. She's amazing. And you can find her at sandy@insidejobscoach.com. We look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, find your power and change your life.